Hey everyone, I am really excited about what I have for you today. So I had an opportunity to go back to the University of Maryland and speak to some of the advanced documentary storytelling students and explain to them a little bit about my path, a little bit about going into freelance production and going into video production professionally, and a lot of the lessons that I've learned. So I really go in depth into my career path of how I've gotten to this point. A lot of the lessons that I've learned along the way. I mean, I talk about pricing, I talk a little bit about equipment, I talk about just kind of communication and working with clients. So there's a lot of great information packed into this presentation. So I hope that you enjoy and get a lot of value out of it.
I'm Ricky Lasser. I operate a video production company, Lasser Media. And so pretty much what I did was I was in Viewfinder my senior year in the fall, and then did independent study with Bethany in the spring semester. And basically, it was during that semester that I got into the freelance world. And so I started working commercially. And basically since then, I've never really worked for anyone else. I just continued freelancing, and then and this is really all I've done. And now, 3 years later, I'm still doing it, and my business has grown significantly in that time to the point where it's fully sustainable. And I'm also in talks with a couple people about expanding and some other business ventures. But it's something that I'm on the management side of that business. So you all saw this video, correct, of who I am? Or should I'll just go through it. It's a minute. It's a minute and a half.
Yeah, play it again.
Cool.
It's one thing to have a lot of views. It's another to develop a message that lingers in the viewer's mind well after watching. The most intensive part of our production is in the edit bay. That's when the narrative is developed. Each visual is polished and narrative refined to our high standards before our clients receive their handcrafted result worth sharing. Hi, I'm Ricky Lasser, founder of Lasser Media, a creative video production company based in Columbia, Maryland, focused on content created for corporate, social media, and brand objectives. At its core, all videos should tell a story. We believe content that is meant to be shared with thousands on social media should compel, inspire, and educate. Our philosophy stems from a foundation in truth and authenticity. I'm a nationally awarded videographer and editor. I graduated from the Philip Merrill College of Journalism at the University of Maryland with a passion for character-driven stories. Now I share my passion with your message. My team's background in journalism fuels our passion to develop documentary-style features. We understand the key to reaching an audience is to share heartfelt and authentic stories. When you combine the character-driven narrative with our technical skills, the results are compelling stories that maximize viewership and your positive impact. Contact us today for a free consultation on how we can help share your message.
So that's a video that I just released. It was specifically designed for social and to sit on my website. So something that I'm kind of learning also in this, as I learn more and more about business and get better, is kind of the importance of staying relevant on social media. So that's exactly what I'm doing right now, why I'm filming myself, so I have content for my YouTube channel, so then I can then repurpose that for other pieces. That way I'm still, basically the whole idea behind both my YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook, everything like that is to reinforce to the people that I know and beyond that I'm the video person. This is what I do, these are the types of stories that I tell. And so, I've been doing this for a while, I know what I'm doing. So that's the whole idea behind my marketing strategy in doing what I'm doing right now. But one of the things that is kind of important in terms of being freelance, being your own production company, is essentially you're everything. I mean, you're your own boss, which is awesome. I mean, the fact that you get to go out and get paid to create videos for people is an awesome thing. And that's the first experience I had was while I was a senior here. I was working on the Pals video, and then during that time, I was also hired by another business, but I'll get to that in a second. Really quick, what I want to explain is just what does freelance look like? Because I had no idea. I had no idea what it looks like. Really, you don't have to punch into work. It's not 9 to 5. No one else is overseeing you. Basically, you're your own entity that people are coming to you. They're saying, hey, I want this video done. here's a check, essentially. That's pretty much what it is. And so you're basically getting paid to create video content. You're working as an independent contractor. So it's a little bit different than if you do want to go into journalism or something else in digital video, world where you might be told to do things. It's nice that you choose your work, you choose your schedule. But the other side of that is, if you're not getting work and you're not motivated to create your schedule, then you're not going to get anything from that. So that's pretty much what freelance is. There's a lot of people I know from Viewfinder that have gone on and now are doing that. And it's, I think it works for a lot of people, but I do think that you have to have a certain level of motivation to make it sustainable. So how do you get started? Pretty much it's a mix of skill, luck, and getting your name out there. So my path, as I was just explaining, was pretty much, I did the Pals project. So I was paid to create the Pals video in spring of 2016. And then at the same time, I was hired by Moburn Lighting Company, which was kind of a weird relationship. Basically, how I was first introduced to Moburn was through a Viewfinder project where it was through the documentary video I did. It was the work release program. Basically, Trey worked at Moburn, and so I basically had that connect there. And then how it actually ended up getting a bit more reinforced is my girlfriend's now stepfather is the general manager there. So I didn't know it at the time, but then when I saw him, or we were emailing, we were emailing back and forth, and then he seemed to know who I was, and I'm just like, I have no idea who this guy is. But then, we built a relationship from there. He saw the work that I did in Viewfinder, and then and that's what got me that job. So, and then basically, so you can see there was a gap. Those are really the only two projects I did in 2016. I really didn't do anything in the fall because I ended up traveling. I went to Southeast Asia. And at that time, I was also freelancing with 522, which is where Tim Drummond, Suzanne, I think a couple other people are. I know Kai's down there as well, where they freelance. And basically, so what that looks like is 522 is a video production company in Alexandria, and then they would reach out to me when they had a project. They're like, hey, can you come in for this one day or these 4 days and edit this? And I was kind of, like anybody, I was terrified to talk about money. I didn't really know where to start. I had no idea what was reasonable or anything like that. So I talked to Tim, and I'm also going to talk a little bit about money so you guys know, because I think that making it taboo doesn't help anyone. So I started at $30 per hour editing when I was at 522, and I was just like, shit, this is awesome. I thought it was like crazy. So I basically, really enjoyed doing that, but they only had so many projects because they also have like a whole base of freelancers that they work with. And I was just kind of doing my own thing. I wasn't, super accessible, obviously, when I was across the world. And then it was in spring of 2017, January, I think, of 2017, when I was contacted by a family friend of mine who works in this nonprofit. She said, hey, I've seen your work, again, from Viewfinder. This is the only reason that people know that I do video, is just because I was putting my work out there, and a little bit of, family, friends, that sort of thing, talking, explaining what I do. And then basically she said, hey, I have this really cool project for you. Basically, there is this awards ceremony that they're going to highlight all the awards winners. So it's a nonprofit that highlights employees and employee team of the year and nonprofit of the year, or employee of the year, and then volunteer and volunteer team of the year. So I did 4 videos for them, and then I made 500 from each of those videos. So that was 2,000 for that project, and so that's pretty much how I got my name out there. What was really cool about that project that really launched me was essentially that video was put on display for a bunch of professionals in Howard County. It was basically anyone who was in the Howard County government sphere or nonprofit, or it's a very tightly networked community. They all came to this event, watched these videos, were really impressed. And then I got a lot of jobs from that. So that's a little bit different than I think most people's paths, but I think everyone's path is different, because that one was put on display. It's like if if I could have paid to have all those people in the room together again, that'd be great. But it was a fortunate circumstance that's why I took it. I would have honestly done it for no money at that rate, because that one was worth the exposure, because it led to a host of other jobs that really led to building my confidence, building my skills. I opened my LLC officially in October of 2017. And so I guess it's been close to a year and a half now that I've been doing that. So if you do decide to go in the freelance route, it's a really good idea to file as an LLC. I should have done it immediately. There's really no reason not to, because it provides you protection from lawsuits. Basically, if somebody goes out, they trip on a light or a cable or something like that when you're filming, and they decide to sue you, they can go for all of your personal assets. So everything that is in my bank account, everything that I, down to my student debt, I mean, like anything like that, like they can basically claim a right to. But if I file as an LLC and operate as a business, as an LLC, they can only go after what the business has, and then Ricky Lasser is protected from all of that. So that's a really good idea, to make sure that you file as an LLC. All you have to do, it's a really simple process, is you go online, you type in basically the name that you want, whatever it is. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought about so many names, and honestly, I was gonna file my LLC like months earlier, and I didn't, because I wanted to decide on a name. I ended up going with Ricky Lasser Video Productions, because I was like, that tells everyone what I do, until months later I realized, like, this is super long and stupid. So then I ended up going with Lasser Media, which has stuck a lot better. But with that in mind, you can...
Did you refile the LLC then?
No, all I did was file a trade name, a DBA, so doing business as, which is super simple. So I'm still operating as Ricky Lasser Video Productions, but I also, was getting some photo jobs and stuff like that, and people were asking. So media, was much more, I guess, global. So basically, create a name, you file with the state, you have to pay a fee for that. I would just pay it. I would actually mail it in, because it's stupid. When you file, at least within Maryland, they charge you like an extra like $100, $150 like expedited fee to do it online, and you can't get around that, but you avoid that fee if you just wait an extra 2 weeks or something like that by mailing it in. So I would do that. Super important, obtain insurance. So surprisingly, video production insurance is kind of hard to come by, because people see a lot of liability with it. Like, I went to State Farm and then I was denied. I tried searching a bunch of organizations, trying to figure out, okay, I need insurance. It was the same reason that I went back on. If anyone ever, gets hurt, something like that, there's damages, that I'm covered. Same thing with equipment. My equipment is, if I get in a car crash and everything is destroyed, then I can reclaim, it would be a process. But that's something that hopefully I would be able to build back up much more easily than if I didn't have insurance. And I ended up finding something, I think it was someone told me about someone in the area down in Silver Spring that worked. So then I got insurance through that, and it was protected. Also, make sure you find an accountant, because the one thing you don't have to worry about when you're hired by an organization is kind of keeping track of all of your expenses. Like, you can and you should keep track of personal expenses, but it is nothing compared to keeping track of business expenses. I am constantly keeping track of my mileage, of every transaction, of invoices, of literally anything that you can think of. I have to be on top of it, and making sure that of my spending, which credit card am I using, business versus not, to make sure that everything is essentially, legal and kosher and all of that. So having an accountant to actually do my taxes and make sure that I'm not audited, make sure that I'm doing everything compliant. I mean, I think my accountant, is like $500 or something like that for the year, which, when he tells me that, I get a couple thousand back in refund or something like that, like, it's great. Like, it pays itself off. So definitely get yourself an accountant. That's huge. So getting organized, and I think that this is something that is really, honestly, I hope this is one of the key takeaways. So making sure that you're organized is so essential to being operating business, because a lot of people aren't organized and they're all over the place. Like for me, I'm supposed to receive 1099s, which is basically, I think, the version of a W-2. Yeah. But since I'm independent, I receive 1099s. I haven't received those from everyone that I've worked for, but I've reported it. So I've reported what I have made from anyone who's ever hired me. And so basically I've cleared myself. But if they then don't report what they charge, then that's more of their issue. So having something like QuickBooks, which basically what QuickBooks does is it keeps track of all of your transactions. So I hooked it up to my bank account, so that way every time I use my credit card, debit, whatever, anytime I pay a check, it all just goes directly into QuickBooks, and then I say, is this personal? Is this business? If it's business, it gives me a whole host of different different categories that I can break it down into, and that's super important when it comes time to file taxes, because certain things are expendable. Like it's really cool that when I'm buying equipment, I deduct that from what I've made for the year. So I'm not then being charged tax on, say I made $1,000 on a project and $500 of it went towards buying, a lens or something like that I needed, rather than being taxed, it was 25%, $250 on that. I'm just making these numbers up, but if I was taxed $250 on that, then really I'm only walking away with $250 because the equipment costs $500. But if I'm only being charged 25% of $500, that's $125. So it does make sense to do stuff like that. And then Honeybooks, Tave are client management softwares. I'm getting more into Tave. I've been talking to JoJo, who's also in Viewfinder. She said she's getting into QuickBooks. It's just a little more well-rounded, I think, than QuickBooks is. And then Google Calendar is so essential. I think that Honeybooks and Tave have that listed, but QuickBooks does not. So Google Calendar, I try to put everything on my calendar because it's a lot of all over the place. Like, I have this client who has this project, and it was definitely easier to keep track of when clients were happening earlier in my business. But now I have 10, 20 clients that I'm working with, something like that. So in order to keep all that organized, I don't know which shoot is when. Like I have a shoot tomorrow night with one company and then another shoot, but then how do I know the projects that I'm editing? When are those due? Is it the first deliverable, second deliverable? There's a lot of stuff. So I literally put everything down, whether I'm calling someone, whether I have to write an email to somebody or just reminders. I use my Google Calendar for literally everything, and it's awesome. It's color coded. It's great. So that's something that I would just block out, and you'll get a better idea of how long does a shoot take, how long does an edit take as you go on. But blocking out days for that is a really good idea. And then filing for sales and use tax, because we're in video production, at least in Maryland, you do have to charge 6% through the state and pay that. So just like any other business in Maryland, or most businesses. All right, so quickly I'm going to go through rates. So how much do you think that you can make in a single project for someone that's doing what I'm doing, where really I'm the only full-time employee?
What's the project?
So this one that I'm working on is the 45 to 60-minute documentary on a first responders organization. I don't want to say too much about who they are, but basically they're having their 75th anniversary, and so I'm doing this whole recap on their history. So we interviewed 20 people, and then there was a lot of B-roll. So there's a lot of stuff to go through. So for something like that, how much do you think that they might be able to make?
How many months of work is that?
So it's a tough question, because we started the project in June and it goes through April, but I want to say it's probably actual amount of effort. It probably takes 1 month of me consistently working on between shooting and editing. I'm blocking out an entire month of my year for them.
Say about 6,000.
Sure, it's a good guess. Anyone else?
I'm hoping it's a lot more than all of these numbers.
I was going to say, if you break it down by hour, it's got to be a lot more.
So I'm making over $15,000 on this one project, and this is also, so that's also one of those things that it does seem kind of crazy. And honestly, I was sweating like crazy any time that I ever had to talk about money with any clients, especially early on. I still do a little bit at certain points, but when I threw this number out. But I was confident in it. I was confident in the fact that, okay, I am actually when you break it down, this is the amount of time that I'm spending on this. This is actually reasonable. So, I felt very comfortable. They actually ended up, basically, I was the first person they were talking to. They ended up putting out for bid, which means that they were looking at competitors, seeing what their prices were. They ended up coming back, and I think that I was actually the cheapest even for the entire project. So,
Yeah, I would go higher than that.
yeah. So that's one of those things that there is actually a decent amount of money, I think, in video production. I'm not gonna lie, this is one of the reasons that I steered away from doing journalism, because for me that was a bit of a deterrent. It's not the only reason. I think I'll get into a little bit more. I liked having a little bit more control over what I did, but I mean, a lot of people need video, especially like in 2019. It's huge. I mean, yeah, video is just like, it's more people are realizing that they need to be paying for this because it's so essential to growing businesses. Yeah.
Were you ever in a situation, like especially when you were starting out, like you're just a recently graduated college student, like maybe people were taking advantage of you, or
Yes.
I mean, you were nervous to like actually be upfront about the money part.
Yeah.
How did you like start figuring that out? Like,
Sure.
because you want to get the job, but at the same time you want to be compensated fairly. So.
Yeah. So most of the time, I did my best to kind of pretend, just fake it till you make it, sort of a thing. Like I was just like, I feel like I should be making this amount, sort of thing. I would say it. Sometimes, yeah, early on, especially you do find with lower paying clients, they have much higher expectations. When you get higher paying clients, they're way happier, and they don't ask many questions. So it is difficult, especially at the start, because people are trying to kind of nickel and dime. And a lot of times I just went with it. Like I did it anyway, and then I was frustrated with myself, but then I was like, all right, for the next project, I'm gonna do better. What I would recommend is never agreeing to a price in the moment. You can always come back. You can always leave the conversation, take some time to think, sleep on it, get back to them in the morning, that sort of thing. Like nothing should ever really have to be decided that second. So that's one of those things that I learned over time is, maybe I feel like I'm excited about it now, or I'm frustrated now, but if I sleep on it, then I'll be much more pleased with my decision in the end. All right, so exactly. So again, like I said before, it's important to discuss rates and where the industry lies so that you guys understand. So my rates have raised significantly. What looks weird about this?
Backwards.
Yeah.
Not really. So my average project in 2016, 2017 was $2,500. Now my average project is around $1,350, but my time is significantly different. So in 2016, 2017, I was working significantly more hours. So if you break this down, honestly, I was, for a similar project now, maybe I'm charging, I don't even know if I'm charging less for the same project, but I was taking on different projects then. So if you break this down, it's not a lot of money. If you take on like a project where you have to film and coordinate, all right, I'm gonna film, one day, this one person to interview, and then like basically when I did the award ceremony, my first year, basically it was 4 different videos covering 4 different award winners, and then each of them had somewhere between 4 to like 7 people they were interviewing, and honestly, like each of those was like on different days. Like I was lucky if I had 2 interviews in the same day. So I was always like breaking down, setting up different location. I had to drive out to there, and then this place and that place, and it was insane. I mean, like honestly, the amount of 10 days was well under what I'd spent on that one project. And then editing there, also, I was not nearly as efficient. My computer did not work as well. So I was spending way more time. And honestly, and the products just weren't as good. But that's fine because I learned from it. Now, I mean, when I take on projects, I'm the one who's essentially kind of directing, all right, now that I have a better understanding of what kind of questions to ask in terms of, okay, what's the story that you want to create? How many people do we want do we need to speak on this? And then basically get a better idea of, okay, let's break this down. What I normally do, and the reason that it says, 1.25 days, 1.15, is because I break my filming days down by half days. Same thing with edits. So it's either a half day or a full day. So up to 4 hours, I'm on location because, for me to take all of my equipment out and set up and film and everything like that, like it takes 30 minutes to an hour to set up for a testimonial, something like that. And then editing, it just kind of depends on the project. Sometimes it's editing only projects, but that just comes with time and efficiency. That you kind of come down in that and you bring that number down. But really, if I'm going out and I'm filming now, I want to make sure that it's worth my time over basically any other project that I might get. So I want to kind of maximize my effort. Like if I were to take on a low-paying project, for example, say for next Monday or something like that, and then basically the client that I was talking with basically tried to talk me down out of my rates. You can always negotiate. Then I may decide, all right, what's kind of my cap of what I'm comfortable making on this day. If they go below that, I would probably make more money just not filming with them and editing maybe another project that I have, because that project I've already billed and and then I'm making more money, so I can save for another day. So it's something you figure out with practice. But that is one of those things that, just because you take on another project doesn't necessarily mean you're making more money. And so real quick, I just want to show you, I guess, like quality of where I am from 2016 to 2019. So this is the Moburn project I did. It says 2018, but it's because I did, actually with this one, they asked me last year to change one line because it was no longer relevant. So always make sure you have everything backed up on hard drives because stuff like this happens. It's very rare, but I actually just got an email about something else on my drive here. So it happens. But anyway, the rest of the video is identical.
Welcome to Moburn Lighting, a premium quick ship manufacturer of fluorescent and LED lighting fixtures and solutions. Located in the Baltimore, Washington corridor for over 70 years, we occupy an 80,000 square foot state-of-the-art manufacturing plant and showroom from which our products are shipped throughout the United States. Most of our fixtures and retrofit kits are Buy American Act compliant. We supply both stocking distributors and large customer lighting projects alike. In fact, we have supplied fixtures to sports stadiums, schools, major airports, and even the home of the vice president.
As we move forward in this LED age, one of our biggest projects has been engineering different types of fixtures. Actually, it's kind of fun when we bring customers in and they say, hey, you can do that? Yeah, absolutely. We have a lot of capabilities here.
To us, our customers, our workforce, and our community come first.
There's an open area, open concept, so that all the departments that we have, that communication increases between all of them. Kind of helps everybody work together as a team.
We are known for exceptional customer service, custom order quality control. With vast supply chain and production resources, our custom order fulfillment and unparalleled customer service, especially shipping methods and post-order follow-up, distinguish Moburn apart from every other manufacturer in our industry. Damage while in transit is a big problem that plagues many of our competition, and we have the lowest margin of error in shipping our product nationwide. In addition, we are an award-winning employer who offers second chance employment opportunities to the disadvantaged or less fortunate. So for your next lighting project, please call our local representative agency or in-house sales associate to quote your next order. We thank you for the opportunity to service you and your customers. At the end of the day, we hope to change the way you think lighting.
All right, so for that project, so that one I did in 2016, and now I'm going to show you one that I did a week or two ago. Very similar in what the request was.
People are our treasure here at Master Media. We've been in business for 30 years now. We're a one-stop shop for providing employer record solutions, full-on staffing solutions, and of course we have that production and creative side of our business too, where we can support clients and their needs not only here domestically in the US, but internationally. I think the challenge for a lot of our clients is they don't have the ability to quickly onboard and offboard the freelance support that they need to operate their businesses. We have a tremendous recruiting staff here. We can develop the appropriate teams for your organization or assist you you with hiring freelance, contractor, direct hire support for your business. We have full benefit offerings for our freelancer pool. We keep things compliant. We're also set up in every single state. So that provides them tremendous savings without having to fly their own crews and their gear. And our clients are witnessing that now, though. They have a pool of people that are there to support them. When they need something, they know to call Mass Media.
So just to give you an idea, so the first project, the one in 2016, I think I filmed over 2 or 3 days, and it took me at least a good 10 to 14 days to edit, just fixing stuff around, re-edits, reshooting. Like I went to Baltimore for the Camden Yard shot, and then I went to BWI. So there was all these like miscellaneous things that I probably would have been much, I've kind of learned essentially how to be more efficient with my time. So then this last one, we filmed it in 4 hours and I edited it in about a day. And I made, it was actually about half the amount that I made. So I made half the amount in 2019 as I did in 2016, but probably for like a tenth of the work. So it's really just kind of figuring out how to be more efficient. Like really all I did was, there was definitely some staging here where I said, I set them up in a conference room and did all of that. But for the most part, I do try with most of these projects to keep it natural. And you saw a lot of the slider action as well. But for the most part, I mean, I don't see too much difference in these projects in terms of scale. I mean, I've learned how to light a bit better. I've learned, my camera's better. But I mean, there's not too much different.
How long was the first one versus the Maslow Media one?
The first one was like 2 to 3 minutes, and this was like 60 seconds. And that's also important because, especially if it's designed for digital distribution, people don't have long attention spans. I mean, I don't really create videos that are beyond 3 minutes. A lot of my stuff is 60 seconds, 30 seconds. I mean, I've done commercials, so 30 seconds, and you obviously can't go past that. 60 seconds is huge for Instagram. And that's, when I first got paid to do an Instagram video, I was like, that's crazy, but okay. But no, it's huge, and it makes sense that people are doing it because there's so many people they can reach, and honestly, way more than they probably would had they distributed for a commercial, and they're paying way less. So those are kind of like the typical projects that I do now. But what my business kind of really focuses on and long-term, what the strategy is to go more into documentary work. And so I want to show you a quick example of basically kind of how you can take Viewfinder into professional world and kind of shape your business. So this is a project that I was really, really happy to do. I did this with the health department in Howard County, and they've been a great client to work with because I would recommend reaching out to like government agencies because they basically have their mission is not always just about, give us your business kind of a thing. They have really good messages. So this is a really cool project to work on. I think I did this it was probably like 8 months ago or so.
We were in the garage and 2 Howard County policemen came up. They said, are you the father of Joey Bonavitacola? He said he was found dead today in a home in Phelps Luck and of apparent drug overdose.
It was like getting hit with a sledgehammer. It's the worst pain that you can imagine.
Right, it's awful. Yes, it is. Joey played football for 4 years. He was very slight, but he played with a lot of heart, and he was very scrappy. It was great being there and in the crowd. Always at the 50-yard line, that was my spot. We would sit together a lot of times because of the screaming.
Yeah, we had to keep a little distance.
I would always hurt his ears, but I think Joey liked that sort of thing too, He didn't really have to look, he could hear me.
Went to the sound.
Yeah.
We started to notice some changes in him right after he graduated high school. There was some uncertainty with him about what he was.
You get the idea. If you want to watch the rest of the video, you can. But the whole concept is I've tried to surround my business and really promote the content like this. Like I probably wouldn't distribute the Maslow video as much as I might this. Like this one, I turned into Facebook video with closed captions through the whole thing, and made it square, all that kind of stuff. I kind of played around with it really tried to promote it, and I think I got like 10,000 views just organically on it. So because what I'm trying to do is build my business's brand, so that way, when people see, oh, this is what he does, then I'll hopefully, ideally, get more projects that are similar to this. All right, so I just want to take you very quickly through when you're operating a video business, kind of what each client process looks like. So typically, you're contacted by the client, you talk with them, you build a contract, and I can answer any questions about that in a second, where you set the dates of filming and the project turnaround. Then you film it, you edit it, you give them a chance for feedback, they provide feedback, then you touch it up, and then the project's done. So that's pretty much how each project works for the most part. So in terms of a contract, always, 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 always have a contract in place, because if you don't, then you have nothing to revert back to if anything changes. Like last week, it was actually dumb. I didn't have a contract on a project because I was kind of being a little loose about it. The guy canceled the day before, which isn't cool because I blocked out that day for work, and now I'm not getting paid for that day. So it's frustrating. So that's one of those things that it provides you protection when you have a contract in place. You have a question? No. Okay. And then typically what I do in my contract is I just pulled something online. It was just a basic template. And then, for video production. And so in there, you list the basic details of this is what we're providing you at this rate. I always own all footage, all creative rights, everything like that, unless they ask. If they ask, then I can decide. But it really should always be initially the right of, because I shot it, I created it, the whole thing. So that is something that it should be my right, but I provide the client access to use the video however they want for indefinite amount of time. But that way I can use the footage for a reel, or in case anyone ever wants to distribute it or anything like that, it has to have Laster Media's name on it. So that way I'm always getting attribution. And it's not being manipulated. That way they can't, if they want to edit something in a detail, something like that, it does have to come back to me to touch up. So that's just a quick thing there. And then, blah, 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 you sign it. And then at the bottom, I always list out very clearly basically what the request is. So, we're going to film a 30 to 60 second video explaining who Maslow is, something like that. And then, in that, then I'll say, all right, we're going to film on this day at this time in this window, and then basically then starts the post-production process. You'll get, the first draft by this date. Then I am supposed to hear feedback by this date, and then you'll get the final one by then. So that way, you're always kind of keeping tabs on each project. It's not just like going out an indefinite amount of money or a definite amount of time, and then they're also not, making you do a ridiculous amount of requests and touch-ups, because that's going to happen. Like people, they're not going to notice something on one edit, and then they'll ask for, 2 more things that they could have clearly just asked you the first time because it was the same piece. But they're going to, that's one of those difficulties in working with clients where, it's just important to protect yourself and time and everything like that to make sure that you're basically protected again. Any questions on this process? Yeah.
How does it look like in the beginning of the process when, like, instead of you being contacted by a client, like you're reaching out to a client?
So honestly, most of the successful work that you'll have, I find it's when you're contacted, but it is difficult, especially initially. So I do, like my chief marketing officer, he basically has done a bit of like outreach, and so he'll just send people messages, but really it's not a high success rate. It's pretty difficult. So what I would recommend is finding people who maybe need a video and just doing it for free, and then basically you do a good job, they're happy because they didn't pay anything for it. They get to put it on their website, and then you ask them for a review or something like that, or to recommend or something like that. Like that's one of those things that utilizing, happy people and happy clients to your advantage is really important for success, because if you tell them, hey, like, I'm just kind of starting out, I really need to get my business off the ground, then most people understand that, and they're super appreciative to help. So that's, getting reviews is also always really good. Any other questions on that? Cool. So what do you think is the most important asset to success in freelance or commercial video production?
Your equipment.
Confidence.
Like that? They're both good answers, yeah?
Organization.
These are all definitely good answers. I'm going to say communication. Communication, particularly with your clients. And that does go especially hand in hand with organization. But I will say I don't think that equipment is as crucial. And while it's always fun to have the fanciest, newest equipment, it doesn't matter.
I thought you meant like physical assets.
No. Oh, okay. No. But I the only reason I say this is because, I mean, you look at me, like I'm always upgrading my equipment. Everyone always is, and it's super exciting to look at the newest, shiniest thing. But really, most clients don't, they don't know much about what the features have. I mean, like, all my cameras shoot 4K, but, when you post on Instagram, you can only get to 720. So it's like, it's just kind of like stupid to almost have equipment that can go so far. But really, it is important to future-proof. So that's why it is nice to have the better equipment. And then when you do have those higher-paying clients, they do understand it, and they do also sometimes require you to have the access to stuff like that. So communicating with clients. Most people really don't get video at all. They come up to you and they're like, hey, I need a video. When can you have it back to me? It's like, okay, what do you want the video on? What are we going to film? What's going to be in it? It's sometimes very difficult to even figure out at all what the request is. I mean, it can be very confusing. So it's always important to explain to them and to be as clear as possible. And basically just understand, because what they don't understand is what goes into creating the video. They just see the person with the camera, and then all of a sudden it's on their screen. But they don't really get, okay, well, we need to film a testimonial or multiple testimonials or interviews or something like that to get a lot of sound bites to create the story. Or we need certain B-roll to support that footage, or else it's not going to look as nice. Stuff like that, where basically when you just kind of explain to them, okay, that's great. I understand that you want a video about this. Do you have a rough idea or an idea of roughly how long do you want the video? Are we talking 30 to 60 seconds? Are we talking 45 to 60 minutes? Very different things, and they would require different amounts of time, obviously. And then also just kind of really understanding what is their goal in creating that video, because everyone has a message. Most of the time it's look at me, look at my business, or provide funding for something. But sometimes it's awareness, like the piece I did on Joey with opioid awareness. I mean, that's I've done a couple of PSAs, stuff like that. So it's always good to just kind of understand what's the goal, and also where is the video going to be placed, because Facebook is different than someone who's on their website, which is different than a commercial, which is, I mean, they're all different. Normally it doesn't matter too much, but when you can, I think if you do go in the freelance route, you will find that pretty much there is going to be more and more that goes into creating the content for a specific platform. And most of that's going to be in the editing process, like in terms of closed captioning, making in the right dimensions, everything like that. So that's something that you have to figure out as you go. But anyway, when possible, it's always good to call or meet in person with a client, because email is just not as clear. I mean, and then what I used to do when I started out was I would have like this laundry list of questions that I honestly thought were important and helpful, but really most of them aren't as relevant. You only really need a handful of questions to understand the request, but I would email it to them, and then it would just take like them all this time to answer it. When really, had I just called them and asked all those questions, we could have done it in 5 minutes, as opposed to them taking 20 minutes out of their time. And it's always good to keep a client happy. So always be nice and friendly, especially when others aren't. I actually just got a really interesting Facebook comment, because I just did this video with do you guys ever watch that Cardinal Sheehan video when they sang Rise Up? It was like 2 years ago, went viral. It's a Baltimore city school. So I just did a project where they came together with a Jewish day school and sang together. And the whole idea of the project was to go viral. It was for a bar mitzvah project. And I don't normally take projects on like this. But basically the whole idea was to go viral and to raise funds for both Cardinal Sheehan and this charity or this nonprofit, excuse me, in Baltimore that helps with music education. And so at this point, I think the video's up to like 70,000 views. What's really exciting is, don't know if I can say exactly the details of it, but it's about to be picked up by one of the network daytime shows, and the kids are going to be on it. So ideally, it's going to go beyond that. I think I'm going to actually get to go with them when they film, but which is pretty cool. And so that's an awesome project. But because a lot of people saw this, I got a comment on. Basically, I just posted from my Last Year Media Facebook page, hey, thank you guys for everyone who shared it. Like it just meant a lot to me. And I think that's one of those things that, again, doing the marketing for myself, that's good branding, because I do appreciate when people help me out, but if I'm not putting out the content, they won't know it. So I posted this video, and then somebody just commented basically saying, the Cardinal Sheehan people she was very upset the Cardinal Sheehan people didn't know that it was a fundraising effort for them until they were there. And so basically she was kind of spinning it into something that was, there was like a racial angle to it and everything like that. And so I just kind of held my head high and I said like, I appreciate you watching and caring about the feedback and stuff like that. And I just gave like a nice response. I helped it clarify. She responded again. I haven't even had time to review it.
Don't fight with the trolls.
But that's exactly at this point I'm gonna deflect, because it's not an area that I didn't have any part of that decision process that she's worried about. So I'm gonna deflect. But it's one of those things that she actually said, thank you for not deleting my comment like it was in this other one. I really appreciate you like actually acknowledging me. So like it's one of those things that you never know, because had I just deleted her comment, she might have left me a bad review on Facebook. I don't know, and I can't delete those. So it's one of those things that it's always good to just be nice. Yeah.
So like with stuff like that, if you acknowledge like the bad comments, do you acknowledge the good comments too? I feel like sometimes when that happens.
Acknowledge everything.
Okay.
Everything, yeah. Because anytime, the one thing I think a lot of people, especially when they're trying to build, is they're always looking for the next person, but they're not appreciating the people that are already there. So the people that are liking and that are commenting, and that those are the people that, are your initial fan base essentially, and are your supporters. Continuing to reinforce that is so essential. Yeah, don't let anyone push you around. So this is going back to what we said earlier in terms of, especially when it comes to pricing. I mean, there's been a couple, bad situations, everybody does, but I had one where basically this guy was telling me that, the video isn't worth this, like it has to be really good then if it's gonna be at the price that I said, which is weird because like if he agreed to my price, then like, whatever. But basically, he was being very manipulative, and honestly, and I felt pressure that I was like, oh, but like he's gonna do the project. All I have to do is, give him access to like the contract to like edit or whatever. But I sat back, and you should never do that. Never just give them free will on your contract to edit it, and always work within your own contract as well. But basically, I was just like, is this a person that I want to work with? No. So I just didn't. I mean, it's not worth the stress of. I wasn't going to be able to please this guy with the end product anyway. I mean, he already had super high expectations, and it's not a good environment to be in. So, if you don't want to work with someone, you can always say no. And then always stay ahead of schedule. So, whenever I tell someone something is due on Thursday, I send it to them on Tuesday. Always be ahead, because especially on projects where, say they expect something by a certain date, send it in the morning. If you're going to send it on that date, don't wait until close of business, because then they're going to get super antsy. And then, yeah, remember with each interaction, you're representing your business, and that's huge. I mean, just kind of building your brand is a really, really important piece of this whole thing. So, key takeaways of just freelancing, being your own business. Being your own boss is incredible. For me personally, like I had, I've personally grown a lot. I mean, in terms of, finding my strengths and weaknesses. There's things that I was horrible at, communicating with clients, and just, having the confidence to discuss rates or to feel like the project that I was doing was good enough, because I thought, all right, they're paying me to do this, it's got to be really, really good, and you're always your own worst critic. So, just getting better in terms of how you, in terms of, the end product, the videos that you're creating, in terms of how you're communicating with clients, in terms of being, efficient with your time, in terms of, honestly, even stuff outside of that, like how much time am I spending editing versus like, with my girlfriend or with my dog or something like it's, the work-life balance also, because being your own boss, you don't get to clock out. It always follows you. And so that's, it is, there's this whole thing of being your own boss, and you learn a lot, because I'm not just required to make the videos. The way that my days look like is I'm communicating with clients, I'm doing my own marketing, I am actually editing and shooting, but I'm also, building out my schedule, and I'm working on, taxes and, all this other stuff that I'm planning out. So it's super time consuming. But if it's what you really enjoy doing, I mean, it's so worth it. Because, I was able to take 3 weeks off and go to Europe last year. And basically, I was just very clever about how I built my schedule in order to, in order to have a 3-week gap where I didn't have any projects going on. But the most important thing, because you're always going to get better, as you go, but the most important thing is just to believe in yourself and your abilities, because, it can be really tough and there's pressure just put on you to, build a product for somebody else or to accomplish a goal for somebody else. Because when people want you to help promote their business and bring in business for them, it's just like, wow, this, it's a lot of weight on your shoulders, kind of a thing. Like, I kind of have one chance to do this. But I think it's really, really important in terms of, being your own boss and freelance and running your own video production company, is just to believe in yourself. Because if you're doing it, I mean, you guys at this point know much more about video than 99% of your clients are going to. Like, you're already doing a better job than they're going to. But more than that, as you go on, like, you guys are very skilled. Each of you is in Viewfinder for a reason. Like, you guys are good. So it's one of those things that you have to kind of remind yourself of that. And believe in yourself, when you want to raise rates, when you want to take on new ventures or stuff like that. It's just continually motivating, and having a good kind of support system, I think, is really important. And one other thing I forgot to mention before, really quickly, it's also really important to network within your industry, because a lot of the work I get is just for other videographers. So that's always, it's also a really good angle. So any other questions? That's it from what I have. Yeah.
How do you, seeing your 2016 video and then your 2019 video, how did you keep growing and learning more about equipment and stuff like that after leaving college?
YouTube videos, a lot of YouTube videos. Yeah, pretty much. That's, I mean, honestly, for the most part, I just enjoy, finding out what new cameras are coming out, stuff like that. Last year when I did get the GH5, pretty much I didn't really know, I was trying a couple different cameras. I rented a few, actually. That's also a really good idea, to always rent equipment before you buy it. Charm Cine up in Baltimore is great for stuff like that, or you can go to lens rentals, borrow lenses, stuff like that. That's all great. But it was just because it interests me that I was staying on top of it. But then there are certain things that when I build out my network and talk with other people that are doing the same thing, then I hear them say things about, well, what works for you? And I ask a lot of questions, because I see people who have been doing this for years, and then I pick, okay, I like that, so I'm going to do that, and I don't like that, so I'm not going to do that, kind of a thing. Yeah. Yeah.
So how many people are going out with you when you're doing this?
Most of the time it's just me, for the most part. I mean, it depends on the project, though. At most, I mean, I'll typically have at most 2 videographers, and then for the most part, I'm doing all the editing, or sometimes I'll pass it off. But then, it's a lot of just, working with other people too, in terms of keeping things flowing. If I do need to pass something off, then they're accessible. All right, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you learned something. I hope that you found out a little bit more, especially with this platform, with YouTube and the vlogs. Really, sometimes there's only so much that I can say. So this video, obviously being much longer than most, I really had an opportunity to go in depth. So I hope that you got a lot of value out of it. And I hope to provide, more stuff like this in the future. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one.